Hello everyone, today we are going to learn how to make this granny square. It is a combination of popcorn stitches and chain stitches. For this we are going to use crochet hook 2.5 millimeter and some crochet yarn. To begin this pattern, you need to start with a slip knot and chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After this, you need to make a slip stitch in the first chain. So you go ahead and work your slip stitch. Once you've made your slip stitch, you chain 2, 2. Now you need to work 3 double crochets into this ring. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Now we have 3 double crochets and the first chain 2 that we made. Now we'll work our first popcorn stitch. So for that, you pull up this yarn, you remove your needle, you insert the needle in your first double crochet. Once you have that, you put it in the loop that you pulled up and pull this loop through your double crochet through this loop. This is what we have, your first popcorn stitch. Then you chain 2 and we need to make 8 of these in the ring. So now you're going to work 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3 and 4. After working 4 double crochets, you need to work your popcorn stitch. So you pull up your yarn, you insert the hook in your first double crochet of your 4 double crochets, not your popcorn stitch, the first double crochet of these 4. Insert your hook into that and into the loop that you pulled up. Now you pull this loop through your first double crochet and you have your second popcorn stitch. Now you chain 2, make another one, 4 double crochets, 2, 3 and 4. You need to make a popcorn stitch out of these 4 double crochets. So pull up a yarn, insert the hook in the first double crochet and into the loop that you pulled up and pull your loop through your first double crochet. So now you have 3. You need to make 8 more of these into, you need to make total 8 of these into this ring. I've completed my 8 popcorn stitches and now we make chain 2. Between each popcorn stitch you work a chain 2. After your chain 2, the last chain 2, you need to slip stitch in the first popcorn stitch that we made. And you slip stitch to your first chain space. So this is your slip stitch, you slip stitch into your first chain space and then you work chain 2 and 5 double crochets into this. Counting this, we need to make 4 more. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So counting our first chain 2 as a double crochet, we made 4 more double crochets. Now we need to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. In the next chain space, we make a slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. In the next chain space, 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chain 3. In the next chain space, slip stitch, chain 3. In the next chain space, 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Chain 3. In the next chain space, slip stitch, chain 3. In the next chain space, 5 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now this is our last chain space. So we chain 3, slip stitch in your last chain space, chain 3, and you need to make a slip stitch on the first double crochet in between your first and the second double crochet. So that's right here. The next row, you work chain 2 and you work popcorn stitches in between each double crochets. So this is the first one. So we started with the chain 2. We make 3 more double crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. So we have 3 plus our chain 2. We work a popcorn stitch here, pull up a loop, the first double crochet, insert your needle, grab your loop and pull it through your first double crochet. Chain 2, work a popcorn stitch in between the next 2 double crochets. So you work a popcorn stitch in between each space between the double crochets that we have here. So this is the next one. You work 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up a loop, work a popcorn stitch, chain 2. The next one, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up a loop and work a popcorn stitch, chain 2. The next one, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up a loop and you work a popcorn stitch, Now in the last one you chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, and you need to make a slip stitch in the chain space, your first chain space that we had made. We have 2 here. In the first one you work your slip stitch. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, work a slip stitch into the next chain space. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you work a popcorn stitch between the first 2 double crochets that we have here. So we are entering the next petal, so the first 2. Between that you work your popcorn stitch, so that's 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you work a popcorn stitch, chain 2, between the next 2 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up a yarn, work a popcorn stitch, chain 2, the next one 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 and 4, pull up a yarn, you work a popcorn stitch, chain 2, next one 1, 2, 3, 4, pull up a yarn and work a popcorn stitch. Now you chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and slip stitch in the chain space, the first chain space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the next chain space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we reach the next petal. You need to continue the same pattern in the next 2 petals, that is you have to have 4 popcorn stitches in each petal. So that's 4 double crochets, one, 2, 3 and 4, pull up a yarn and work a popcorn stitch and chain 2. Continue this to the end of the row. I've completed my row and I've worked my last chain 3. After you've done this, you need to make a slip stitch in the first popcorn stitch that you made, and then you make a slip stitch between these 2 popcorn stitches. And now you chain 2. Now you work popcorn stitches in between each popcorn stitch. So in the next row we will have 3. Here we have 4. In the next row we will work 3. So after your chain 2, you work 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and you make 1 popcorn stitch there, chain 2. Now in the next space, you've done your first space, in the next space another popcorn stitch. So 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4 and a popcorn stitch, chain 2. In the next one, 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a popcorn stitch. Now you chain 3. So that was the first chain, 2, 3, because that is the end of this 3 stitches. So you chain 3 and you make a slip stitch in the first chain that we have here. We have 3 chains here, 1, 2, 3. In the first chain, you need to make a slip stitch, chain 3, a slip stitch into the next one, chain 3, a slip stitch into the next one, and chain 3. Now you work your popcorn stitch in the next petal. So that's 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2. In the next space, another popcorn stitch. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, another space, the last space, 1 more popcorn stitch. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4 double crochets. Now you chain 3, 1, 2, 3, a slip stitch in the first chain, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the last chain, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you continue working 3 popcorn stitches in the next petal that we have here, and you follow the same pattern till you reach here. I have completed my row and I have my last chain 3 here. Now you need to slip stitch in the first popcorn stitch that you made and slip stitch in between the 2 popcorn stitches, the first 2. And chain 2. Now we have to make 2 popcorn stitches in this row, 1 in between the 3, 1 here, 1 right here. So we begin with the first one. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, and in the next one 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4, your popcorn stitch, and then you chain 3. That's 1, 2, 3. Now you need to make a slip stitch in the first chain here, the first chain, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the next chain, it's right here, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch in the last chain. Now once you've done that, after you slip stitch in the last chain, you chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you work your popcorn stitches in this petal. So you would have 2 of them, 1 here, 1 here. So the first one, that's 4 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 and 4 in your first popcorn stitch, chain 2 in the next space, the second one, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is your second popcorn stitch. Now you chain 3, 1, 2, 3 and slip stitch in the first chain right here. So your first chain, you slip stitch, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, and then you slip stitch in your last chain. The chains will be too close to the popcorn stitches, so make sure not to miss them. Then you chain 3 and continue the same pattern, that is 2 popcorn stitches between these 2 and the chain in this area until you get to the start of the row. I've completed my row. Now I have my last chain 3. Now you need to slip stitch in the first popcorn stitch and slip stitch in between the 2 popcorn stitches. Now you chain 2. We'll work a final row now. So you make 3 double crochets into the same space and work 1 popcorn stitch and chain 3. This is what you have here. Now after you chain 3, you need to slip stitch in the first chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the next 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 chain, chain 3, and you need to make 1 popcorn stitch in between the 2 popcorn stitches. So that's 4 double crochets, 2, 3 and 4, and you work your popcorn stitch and chain 3. So in your last row you will be working 1 popcorn stitch between the 2 popcorn stitches that you have. After you made your chain 3, you need to slip stitch in the first chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the next chain, chain 3, slip stitch in the last chain, and chain 3, and you work your next popcorn stitch between the 2 popcorn stitches. So that's 4 double crochets, 2, 3 and 4, and you work your popcorn stitch. You need to continue the same pattern till you reach the start of your row. I've completed the row. This is the last chain 3. You need to slip stitch into your popcorn stitch, chain 1 and cut your yarn. So you have your square with the popcorn petals. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.